Hi, welcome to the SAYge Real Stories podcast, where we are hearing from real women who have a story to share. As women, we face many different challenges as we navigate through this thing called life. But no matter what it is, someone has been there, has been through those woods and charted a path. Hearing these stories can be so valuable. They can inspire us, empower, make us feel like we aren't alone, and we can connect in a special way through these shared life experiences. At SAYge, we're taking it one step farther, and we are connecting you with that woman who has the story you need to hear. To have a conversation where you can ask questions and have a mutually meaningful connection. If there is a speaker you hear on this podcast series that resonates with you, email hello@sagelink.com and we will connect you. Now sit back, relax, and enjoy this SAYge Real story. Kathy, welcome. I am so honored to have you on our podcast today. Kathy is an impressive woman. You have quite a resume. Her bio includes being an accomplished author, speaker, creative entrepreneur, and business coach. She works with large organizations and communities to cultivate leadership diversity by advancing more women and people of color into leadership positions. She's known as America's marketing motivator. You can Google her. Kathy's the founder of the Fearless Leader program and co-creator of its book series. She's a graduate of Stanford University in economics. She owns a talent development and empowerment company offering coaching, training, mentoring, and, as she puts it, butt-kicking accountability. Kathy is also an ovarian cancer survivor. As I would venture to say, all of us women, we are a lot of things. We are whole. And one of those things never defines us. But hearing snippets of our journeys and parts of who we are can really unite us and connect us. And actually, I had met Kathy, we didn't meet actually, I heard you speak, and we were LinkedIn connections. And she posted a LinkedIn post that really grabbed me. And this is the reason why she's speaking on SAYge today. Most of her LinkedIn posts are about her amazing things that she has going on professionally. But this one really struck me. I'll just read you one paragraph from it. And actually, take a look at the picture here that went along with this post. One paragraph of her post says, "Every year since 2011, I post a side-by-side photo of me with cancer and me after cancer. Cancer taught me a lot, mostly that I couldn't control everything that happened to me, but I could shape my experience. Meeting and spending time with my mortality helped me evolve as a human being. It's odd to say, but I'm grateful for that aspect of my life experience. I am so very grateful that I survived cancer and continue to thrive 12 years later. Every day is a gift." So powerful.
Okay, now you got me to cry.
Yeah, and how many people? 11,000?
It was crazy. I think in 7 days, it was 11,400 people, and that is an all-time record. Did not expect that, Linda. Did not even, that's not why I did it. So clearly there are people, even strangers, that want to support us and cheer us on through our adversities, through our hardships.
100%. And that human connection is extremely powerful. Knowing that we are human beings and we go through things, and breaking down those walls and showing our vulnerable, authentic selves is extremely, extremely powerful. Kathy, I'm so thrilled that you're going to be sharing your story today, not because it's a powerful story, it's an incredible story, but what you have done and the lessons that you've learned. If I can help facilitate that and you can share that and impart those messages, wow, then you've really turned your journey into something extremely powerful. So thank you. I'm so grateful you're here and that you're doing this.
Life was humming along. I was 48 or 9 at the time, big milestone birthday coming up. And I always find that how we discover, how we listen to our bodies speaking to us, and usually we're not listening, right? We're just powering through the day. But so I discovered that I had a problem in a Taekwondo martial art class where we exercise barefoot. And we spend a lot of time trying not to look at our toes and feet as a discipline. But I noticed that my left foot was swollen. I said, my left foot is fatter. My left foot is fatter than my right. That's odd. And then I just continued and ignored that. And then it started to move up my leg, and my knee got swollen, and then my thigh got swollen. And I started to realize I have to pay attention to this. I can't ignore this. Something's happening. So I finally got myself to a doctor, did a couple ultrasounds. It turned out that I had this very large cyst on my left ovary. So that was a shock, but it wasn't quite a shock because Linda, I've had trouble on my reproductive organs for decades. Um, and my mother, my grandmother, and my great grandmother also had ovarian cancer. They died at 80 and 82, respectively. But I was 48 going, this is kind of early. So I found myself having to run the cancer gauntlet, going to see the doctors, the specialists. At one point, I remember a doctor telling me that, I have good news for you. You don't have cancer. And the next doctor said, no, I think we got to do a hysterectomy. We don't know what we're going to find, but if it's a problem, we're just going to take everything out, complete hysterectomy. But if it's nothing, then, we'll sew you back up and you'll be fine. So that surgery, which, could have gone either way, ended up being very long surgery. And I woke up in the hospital, kind of drugged out, and I see my husband's face, and he usually can hold a good poker face, but he wasn't holding that one. And he said, I'm really sorry, but you have ovarian cancer. And still drugged out, not really understanding the magnitude of what I was hearing. And of course, being completely cut open from belly button to pubic, area with a full cut hysterectomy. My first job was to heal from surgery. And that's when, you're weakened, you're in pain. You can't really move for 6 weeks, by the way, 6 weeks. And I remember one moment, Linda, that I had a whiteboard, one of those where you write with the dry erase markers and you're putting your to-do list. And I'm putting all the great things I've booked, businesses, speaking engagements. I am so in demand. Look how successful I am. And one of the first things I did when I could walk was I walked over to that board. I erased everything, wiped it clean, and wrote in huge letters, job number 1, health and well-being. And I did beat myself up quite a bit, oh, I ignored the signs. Oh, I failed my body. Oh, trying to like assign guilt to the origin of this disease, which was not helpful, by the way. I don't recommend that, but it's part of the grieving process, right? I finally just decided to embrace it. And one of the first decisions I made was that I was going to substitute myself for every work engagement, because I clearly was not in position to stand up and give a talk or a training. So I found people to do the work, and I focused on that commitment to job number 1. And actually, I ended up taking 7 months off, which is a luxury. I know that people don't have that financial and family support luxury, but being able to focus on my health and recovery, I think that was one of the best decisions I made.
At what point did you erase that dry erase board? Like, where in the timeline was that where you said, okay, this stuff professionally, when you compare it to survival, just when did
it's kind of a blur, but I, technically no, I was not able to walk up the stairs where my dry erase board was in my office. So I probably took the 6 weeks before I could walk upstairs on my own. In my mind, in my memory, it was like the first thing I did, but it wasn't. There was a lot of struggle. So first of all, I want to give our listeners the grace, the permission to give yourself grace that this is a process. In fact, just below me is I pulled out my big box of photos. Linda, I even found I kept my hair that I shaved off. It's kind of a little creepy, but it's down there. It's, hermetically sealed. But one of the books that I brought out of my bookshelf was on death and dying and the 5 stages of grief. And I'd read it before and thumbed through it down there as I was recovering from a hysterectomy. And it's like, okay, I'm not going to get them in the right order, but there's denial, there's anger, there's sadness, there's bargaining, there's acceptance, and you can't skip any steps. You can do them in a different order, but you can't skip any steps. So it took me 6 weeks to work through that until I finally said, okay, hey, I have cancer, right? And I had my next decision to make, which was, what are you going to do about it? And I'll tell you, I really didn't want to go through chemotherapy. I sought a couple second opinions, and I had my mother who had lost a child. My brother died when he was 30 at the age of due to cystic fibrosis. So she lost a child, and that's devastating. She still's not recovered. And she begged me, please do the chemotherapy. I can't afford to lose another child. So heavy guilt, heavy pressure, but she did promise to become a vegetarian. I was impressed with that, although she was lying. She didn't hold her up. But anyway, there was one moment where I went up to Dana-Farber in Boston to get a second opinion, and talk about a swanky hospital. I mean, you just walk in, you feel like you're in a spa, valet parking, like, wow, this is so nice. I could get top treatment here. And the doctor was an incredibly attractive female doctor with a absolutely clean white, doctor coat and all this gold jewelry and dark hair. And she was breathtaking. I remember that. And she had a very nice demeanor, and she read my file and, quickly examined me. And she said, well, we could do this one of two ways. You have choices. You could do the chemotherapy, and we could, I could guarantee you kind of 80% chance that this will never come back, or 80% chance this will never come back again, right? But if you choose not to do it, your odds are about 50-50. But when it does come back, it's going to attack your bowels and your life will be hell. Now, I am paraphrasing. That's how I remember. It will attack your bowels. Not a good place to attack. And your life will be hell. And we drove home, and I said to my husband, she had me at bowels. Like, sign me up. I'm doing this. I can't risk having bowel cancer. So I embraced it. And through my network, I found a really terrific oncologist that specializes in chemotherapy for ovarian cancer. And I wouldn't have found that person, because not finding the right fit for a doctor and an oncologist that was a real struggle. Everyone wanted to put me on an experimental regime. One doctor wanted to do some kind of treatment where they put the chemotherapy in your stomach and they turn you like a rotisserie chicken. So I decided to do the vanilla approach, the basic 6 months, once every 3 weeks. And I would just choose that. So I chose that. And showed up to my first session. I just looked at pictures, Linda, and I'm wearing this big bright pink. I have a blanket. I have one of those boopies. People have given me these lovely gifts to make me comfortable. And you go in, and on your first session, they put you in a private room on a lazy boy chair. And first thing you should know, that chemotherapy, when it goes in your arm, it's freezing cold. It's cold. So you want to bring a lot of blankets, dress warmly. And I noticed all the other patients who were getting infusions. They were sitting quietly in a room full of lounge chairs, reading books, low energy. Meanwhile, in my little room, I was having conversations, and a couple people visited, and 6 hours went by pretty quickly. And so I decided at that moment, that during that first session, that I didn't want to sit in a lounge chair and be quiet for 6 hours. I wanted to have people support me. I'm an extrovert. So know that not everyone does what I'm about to tell you. So a friend had introduced an idea that she had heard from someone else. So she even had not done it herself, but she said, I have this friend, and she, at her chemotherapy sessions, she has like mini parties. She invites friends, and they bring food, and they dress up, and they have fun. And I thought, well, isn't that a great idea? So we came up with a chemotherapy party, not a chemo, but a chemo. And so for each of the 6 sessions, or the 5 left, I created a theme. One was Hawaiian luau, Mexican fiesta. We did prom night. Trying to look back. Anyway, there were 5 of them. And so I invited different people to come, and we decorated. We had food. They shut the door because we were kind of noisy, but we had that private room. And it was really, well, as fun as it could be. Wow. So that was one of the first creative things I did. And it was the first way I was starting to, I'm not going to say take charge, because I was not in charge, clearly. The cancer was. But I started to shape my experience. I got to go through this. I'm not in charge. I can't control everything like I used to. How do I shape this so that it's a more supportive, transformative, more enjoyable experience? And chemotherapy parties, that was my first creative endeavor.
Your whole mentality to this point, I would say, is not the norm in what you hear. And part of why your journey is just such an incredible one to share. But I want to take one step back.
Okay.
That moment when you're at Dana-Farber with the doctor in her gold jewelry, and she's just there telling you bluntly, I would imagine, 50-50 without chemo. And you didn't really want to do chemo because it's poison, and you knew you were up against quite an experience with chemo, as everyone is. Both scary. Okay, really 20%, chance of dying is not one anyone wants to imminently face. How did you grapple with the fear at this time? You sound right now, looking back, like you really had tried to maintain a positive attitude, but I would imagine it was quite scary.
Two thoughts. One, I realized that my chance of mortality was 100%. We're all going to die, right? You don't get out of this alive. It's just how and when. And two, the whole mortality table, can I just say that was not helpful? I had a wonderful research cancer guru who kept sending me all these research papers with mortality tables. It just made me feel more afraid and more terrified and more depressed. So, everyone's experience is different. And yes, there's a lot of our genetic makeup. Okay, I come from, like, I have a family history of this. By the way, I did do the genetic testing, which was negative, but then there's so many strands they don't know. And I have two grandmothers. So the chances are I'm carrying some kind of gene. But it's your journey. It's my journey. It was my experience. No one can predict my odds. So I just I started to disregard that. I started to not focus on that information. It was not helpful to me.
Certainly, you shouldn't.
Yeah.
You would not recommend Googling it also.
So, attitude is so important. Lifestyle is important. Okay. So what can I control? My attitude and my lifestyle. So a couple things I did. I remember going to Costco, wandering around with my blanket, a little bit of a shuffle, and I went to one of their demonstration centers, and there was a guy demoing a Blendtec blender. Zzz, and then giving you the sample, right? And I'm sitting there going, I've read about juice drinks and juicing and kale, and I just said to my husband, I think I need one of those. And so we bought one. We still have it, by the way. It's a great machine. And so lifestyle diet, I started to change my diet, and I started eating things that normally I wouldn't eat, like kale, Kaele, that green leafy thing. By the way, you can massage it, break it down with salt and a little olive oil. It's just glistens with beautiful green, like a varnished look. It's tasty. You can blend it, you can chop it, you can even bake it. It's a superfood. And so I came up with the idea that kale, if it doesn't kill you, it'll cure you. So I introduced kale. I started eating more vegetarian food. I cut out all alcohol until my neighbor came over, my Italian neighbor, and said, "Oh, as long as you drink organic wine, it's good. Trust me, my family's from Italy. We know this." So I reintroduced a little wine. I walked every day. I took care of myself. I learned to knit. I had a knitting instructor. Talk about people who want to support you. How can I support you? First of all, never ask someone who has cancer, how can I help you? They don't have, like, there's too much brain fog. We don't know. Just do something. Do my laundry, mow my lawn, bring me some soup, teach me to knit. Just you take over, because I don't have the energy. So actually, she was a client, one of my first clients, Dr. Lyra Burns. She just came over, and every Tuesday we started knitting together. That was really relaxing. So attitude, I would say extreme self-care, good nutrition, that helped me, and not looking at the mortality tables.
Things you can control.
Right. I decided, well, somebody had sent me a card when I got a lot of greeting cards. Thank you. Keep them coming. Keep them coming. And it was a beautiful Hallmark card or some kind of professional card with a woman, and it was black and white. She was bald, and her eyes and how she looked into me as I looked at the card, I was mesmerized by this woman who was going through cancer treatment. I couldn't stop looking at it. And so I decided that I was going to do a photo session of me bald. All right. So I contacted my favorite photographer, Matthew J. Wagner, and I asked him if he would do a photo session. And it was in my 5th month, so I was completely bald. We decided to go black and white, and he caught me. I actually want to show you. I hope this turns out. I put it behind me because this time in my life would never happen. I hope I can go. So, and he cropped this one. So we got all these fun, laughing. Here's my Seth Godin picture right there with just the bald head and the eyes.
Mhm.
And we got lots of photos. We got these 5. I did this. I gave a copy to my mom. And that's the picture I used in the LinkedIn photograph. And I also intended to write a book on this experience. So I needed a book author photo, and a bald one would be really, good to have. So I want to encourage anyone who's going through cancer to consider doing a photo session capturing this moment in time, because you will see in those photos your inner beauty, your inner strength. You will no longer fear or feel ugly. You will feel beautiful.
I mean, those are beautiful photos. Beautiful.
Yeah. And so but again, it was just this crazy idea. He had never done it. No one had ever asked him to do that. So don't be afraid to look at yourself, and don't see ugly. Don't shame yourself. See beauty, see strength, see transformation. And you also get to see what shape your head really is. Turns out I have a perfectly round head. And by the way, when you lose your eyebrows and your eyelashes, when you lose your eyebrows, you still have your brow bone. So it actually does create the dimension. And you can pencil over, but when you lose your eyelashes, that's when you actually look like a cancer patient. When those eyelashes go, I had every eyelash except one. I had to pluck it out. Like, come on, dude, fall out.
Your decision to shave your head and that whole
Yeah.
event is so incredible that you did.
This was before the photography. So the doctor said there was a 100% chance of losing your hair, 100%. And it would probably happen shortly after the first session. And people had been telling me stories about how awful it is to be in the shower and to be washing your hair and just have clumps come out and you see it on the floor and it's kind of traumatic. I thought, well, I got to get ahead of this. So I decided to do a fundraiser very quickly because I didn't have a lot of time. And we called it a hair raiser. Hair raiser. And my slogan was, bald is beautiful, but educated is gorgeous. So we linked with the Kibera School for Girls in Africa, a project of Shining Hope for Communities. And my hairdresser, Karen Roche, agreed to provide the venue and shave my head. And then we had 9 other people shave their heads at the same event, including 4 other women. This is one of the girls who benefited. We raised $3,000. And then here was just it's a thank you card that I sent, some snapshots of the picture, people at the event. We did a silent auction, and food, and they did mohawks. Karen first did a mohawk on me, and they put a tiara on my head. And then Sandra Santarelli from Say It Forward and Kerchief Organization brought us all head wraps. And I remember sitting in the chair, looking out at the crowd, and I saw my friend Jim Comerford, who's in my Taekwondo community. But it was like being in heaven. It was like looking at people, looking at you, feeling this out of body experience. It was fun. It was funny. We raised money and did good in the world. And I didn't have to look in the shower pan going, oh my God, my hair is falling out. So I totally recommend proactive shaving your head.
Explain how this was like heaven to you.
Well, when people are looking, people who love you and care for you, when they are there for you and they show up, it's remarkable. They're not pitying you. It's not about pity, it's about support, and they're with you. So that just felt good.
Love
I'll tell you, when I was in the hospital and I was recovering, literally in the hospital with a dumb little Johnny and naked underneath, and people are visiting, and you're like, please don't let them see my private parts, please. All I could think, my professional business owner, egotistical mind was like, oh my God, if they find out I have cancer, no one will hire me. No one. My business will be nothing. And then I thought about Steve Jobs, who was still alive at the time. And it's like, well, I'm not Steve Jobs. The stock market isn't going to crash because I've announced I have cancer. It was like, snap out of it. People will support you. And then, I don't know, it was like the same afternoon, my client walks in with his colleague with a big thing of roses. And yes, I was unfortunately open in some areas of the Johnny. So that was a little bit unfortunate, but they were there to support me. You don't have to hide it. You don't have to hide it. Yes, I got a wig. Actually, I had fun with wigs. My husband actually wore a couple of the wigs. We went out to dinner once, Linda, and he had one of the wigs and I had one of the wigs, and he was very playful with it. And he ran into one of his clients, which, okay, that was a little embarrassing. So cancer, so many of the language around cancer, warrior, fight, kick its ass, crush it. Those are male dominated, war driven language. So you are fighting yourself. And I realized this thing is in me. I didn't invite it, but it's there. And it's part of me. And why should I hate and eradicate and kill and destroy part of me? What would happen if I just danced with it? What if I embraced it? What if I said, it's okay. I get it. You're here. Um, come to me and we'll shave our head and see how we feel. It's a we thing. It's mortality. Yeah. You're my friend. And we're going to spend this little journey together. We're going to dance together. So come on in. Um, let's get along.
I'm at a loss for words to describe how that just made me feel, because it's, in so many aspects of our life, if we could do that, it would be beneficial. And why not this, where this is you, this is your body, this is, your energy, to be able to dance with it rather than just fight. Wow. How has this changed you? Go into that deeper.
Well, it gave me a new sense of urgency about my life, because, when you walk with mortality and death, it's like, okay, I'm not going to live forever. So let's get on with the business of doing good in the world. I sometimes forget that, Linda. So I have to kind of come back to the lesson. But it made me appreciate more, made me give more. I hope my ego deflated a bit. And it made me be okay. Here's another lesson I received that I also want to share with our listeners, is that it's okay to receive help. It's okay to ask for help. We all need it. And people like to give help. You like to give help, right? Someone asks you, it makes you feel good to help somebody out. So when we're going through these hard times, to deny someone else the opportunity to feel good about helping someone they care about, like you, like me, well, that would be kind of crazy. I've been giving most of my life. Most women, compassionate caregivers. We just love to help, supportive people. But man, we feel weak if we have to ask for it back. I'm in this chair, I am now receiving graciously. And if people ask me what we need, I'm not going to say, oh, I'm fine, nothing, don't worry about me. I'm going to say, well, actually, could you walk with me on Tuesday? I'm struggling finding a replacement. Could you help my husband out? Could you make us a meal? What could they do that would be simple, easy, and joyful, that would make them feel good and allow me to receive it and be supported by my community? So that's when I think about networking and community. If you withdraw because you're having this difficult, life-threatening fight with yourself, with whatever's inside, you are removing yourself from your biggest resource. So you got to lean into that. You have to tell people. And I know that's hard, and people are shocked and they don't know what to say, and that's okay too. But you sharing the experience and allowing them to support you, that's what brings relationships together. And that's part of the transformation. That's one of the things I learned. I got to keep doing that, even if it's not cancer,
Mm.
even if it's something else, even if it's depression or crisis of identity or, transition that I don't know how to deal with. When we clam up and we keep it to ourselves and figure it's a weakness to tell anybody what we're struggling with, we've cut ourselves off from the best resource we could have.
Wow, I couldn't agree more. A couple things there that are striking me is your dance that you speak to. It seems like it was a dance between relinquishing control and taking control what you can.
My
Um,
mind's actually in a ballroom dancing lesson. And believe me, the idea that women have to follow and the man leads, that always drove me crazy because I always thought I was the better dancer. So I would always be fighting for the lead. And that made us kind of a very awkward couple on the floor. But then if you get with the instructor and suddenly a strong lead and you can let go of control, and then you're just you're floating and flowing, and it's like fabulous. So some of it is just relinquishing that control and letting yourself be supported and guided. You're still dancing. You're just not struggling as much.
you told me you resigned to share this story and help women that may be going through. Ovarian cancer is a women's cancer, so that's why I say women. But how are you doing that? Touch upon that a little bit.
Well, I'm here today with you. And as you had mentioned at the top of the show, I want to make myself available to connect and have conversations with members of SAYge as my way of paying it forward. Um, I want to just say, though, that everything that I did may not be right for you. Every dance is different, but some of the concepts and support and just being with people who've been there and can be compassionate with you. I think that's what SAYge is all about. I want to say there was one time in my life, I forget what the hardship was, but I remember the phrase I kept saying to myself, I cannot share this unspeakable truth. I can't share this unspeakable truth. And then when I shared it, it's like, I remember the person I shared it with, she said, oh, don't worry about that. I've been through that. And it like brought light into the darkness and the thing just dissipated. There is no unspeakable truth. To speak the truth um, is to honor and to allow yourself to release it. One of the things I did come away with the cancer experience, the dance, was that I needed to be more medically vigilant, because prior to that, I had stuck my head in the sand for 5 years, and I didn't go to any medical appointments because I was afraid to hear what they were going to say. And then I don't have health insurance, or it's too expensive. Um, Never let 5 years go by. Every time you schedule a mammogram, do your gynecological work, get the blood test. If you feel a lump, if you see a swelling, if you see something on your skin, this is my thing, biopsy. Get a biopsy on that thing. You just have to be just vigilant, means always on the lookout for your health and well-being. Do not ignore the signs. And even if it's like, I don't know, my foot's kind of swollen. What do you think? I don't know. Maybe we should go get it checked out. Because the thing with ovarian cancer, most of the signs are they're disregarded. Oh, you're bloated. Oh, you have pain during intercourse. Oh, you're like, oh, that's just a woman thing. No, that's a problem. That is not to be. You've got to know your body and you got to listen, because if you don't, it's going to talk louder.
Some people just think, we have this feeling of immortality, like, oh, well, we're going to be fine. And, we are mortal and we can do our part, I think, is the message to be vigilant.
Know thy body, listen to thy body. That's that wisdom, right? That's the sage part of you and your body. You know your body best. And just because the doctor goes, oh, that happens to all women, don't fall for that. If you feel like something's wrong with your body, you bring attention to it.
Do you feel almost like you have a new
Do.
lease on life?
I
So
do. And
cliche,
you know
but
where I am right now, Linda, I'm transitioning. I call it, I'm in the legacy phase of my life. I'm technically supposed to be retired, but I'm not done yet. So you mentioned in my bio that I'm running this Fearless Leader program, and I'm co-creating the book series. So what I want to do is I want to help other people, mainly women, write their first book to give them a platform. So the Fearless Leader book series will be, the vision is that we'll have a series, not quite like Chicken Soup of the Soul, but maybe, but it will be about people doing fearless things. And the next one in the series, I'm hoping, is going to be laying the groundwork for fearless Black women in business. We may do fearless educators. We may do fearless cancer survivors. That would be a fun one to do, where we interview other people and we get their stories and glean lessons from them. At the end of the day, if I live to be 100, that'd be great. But if I don't, or if I die at 101, I want the work I've done to outlive me. And so I'm starting to create a succession plan of opportunity, and there's an urgency around that. Let's get it done, man.
incredible. If anyone listening, again, wants to connect with Kathy, ask her some questions. You know she has the compassion from being there for what you're going through. Email me at hello@sagelink.com and I will put you in touch with Kathy. As well, you can take part in any of her exciting upcoming programs.
You're all invited to be part of the Fearless Leader community and bring all of your brilliance, your stories, your authentic self. We will support you in any way we can. And I want to thank you, Linda, for bringing this incredible resource to so many people around the world. The SAYge Link, the opportunity to share your story and connect with real people in real conversations, one-on-one. I think that's how we change the world.
I hope you enjoyed this SAYge Real story. Remember, if you would like to connect with the speaker you heard for a conversation, to ask any questions, and just connect, email hello@sagelink.com.